Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of Check 2020. My name is Cole Kelly from Emporia State University. If you have any questions for today's session, be sure to submit those through the button on the page for this session. Today's session is Rapidly Migrating to the Cloud with Amazon Professional Service by Amanda Tross from Kansas State University. And with that, Amanda, I will let you take it away.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Tross, and I'm with Kansas State University, and I'm an IT project manager. I'm going to share my screen here. Here we go. And for the last year or so, I have been working with our teams here at K-State to migrate K-State to the cloud. And this has been a pretty heavy lift for K-State, and we couldn't have done that without Amazon's professional services. So I wanted to share the playbook that AWS operates by and how we at K-State use that playbook in concert with their professional services to rapidly accelerate our migration to the cloud. So during this presentation, I'll share with you our cloud first strategy, how Amazon operates, how we did that at K-State, and answer any questions you have at the end. So many of you know about a year ago, actually, during Check 2018, funny enough, there was a fire at our library on the Manhattan campus. Our data center is located in the basement of the library. So some of these pictures that you see here are damage following the fire in our data center. You can see all the water on the floor, standing water, water dripping over our servers. Even more pictures of damp ceiling, water coming in. On the far left, you see our servers wrapped up. That was our fire department who did that, and we really appreciate that. Helped save a lot of our equipment. And this is pretty devastating to K-State. This is a video. I know you can't hear the audio. We tested it before, but I want you to imagine, just for a moment, a Kansas storm, especially an April storm, when you forgot to clean out your gutters. You know, when your gutters are just overflowing and the water's hitting the ground so hard out of your house and you go, oh my gosh, my basement's gonna flood. That's what I want you to imagine the sound is right here. So if you had that sound playing in your head, you can see that's what was happening to our data center during the fire. During the fire, the fire department just were spraying water onto the roof of our library. And where does water have to go? To the basement, to the bottom. So our data center just got damaged. So after the fire, and this was already in the works before the fire, I have to say, but it was solidified post-fire. This was our ICE-T strategic plan, and I included the link on this slide, but you're also welcome just to go to the K-State website and do a quick search for IT strategic plan, and this will pop up. So part of our strategic plan, one of the several points in it was to modernize our infrastructure. And one of the ways we were going to do that was adopt a cloud first strategy. Cloud first, simply put, to K-State meant that if the service was best served in the cloud, put it in the cloud. If it maybe wasn't, reconsider that it could possibly go into the cloud. Figure out how we could adopt a cloud first mindset. We know that not everything can go into the cloud. Not everything is maybe best suited for that. But we really need to think through that each service and application strategically to see if it could or could not. Because as you saw just before, our data center has a lot of damage and we were gonna have to rethink that footprint as well. So. And I think I've seen a number of presentations already so far at Check that has talked about some universities' journey to the cloud. And it really is a journey. It's not a, oh, hey, we're going to go to the cloud and we'll be there in a week. We're just going to take everything from one and just put it there. It doesn't happen like that. It is a very iterative process. It takes most universities anywhere between 5 and 8 years. But K-State really didn't have that much time. We didn't have the ability to just take our time in getting there. We had to move fast, as you just saw why kind of one of our reasons for rapidly getting there. Um, so to do that, we decided to partner with AWS. And AWS has out the gate, a journey plan for us that includes a readiness assessment, a readiness and planning part, as well as going into migration and operations. And you can see here, this is a pretty aggressive timeline. We're talking, this is about a year, a little bit more than a year. So K-State partnered with them to go down this journey. The first part of that was a readiness assessment. And this is where AWS comes in and they take a look at our current situation and tell us, hey, are you ready to move to the cloud? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where do you need to improve? How could you possibly get there? What might it cost? What might that look like for you? We did this in the fall of 2018 after the fire, and it was pretty enlightening for us. It was very informative and it was very helpful for when we entered into our MRP, Migration Readiness and Planning. So Amazon swooped in May of 2019 to K-State, and with this very aggressive MRP plan. What that is 16 weeks, give or take. K-State was a bit more longer than this, and that's okay. And they divided our time with AWS into 8 different work streams, what AWS calls them. These are sort of eight different areas. And the goal was to stand up our AWS account, get the foundation, get it secure, get all of our team members prepared and ready to operate in the cloud, and then go migrate some applications to native AWS and help us get there, help us work through all of the knowledge transfer and all of the building and all of the construction that was going to have to go on. So we did that starting May of 2019, and it was a really intense time for K-State. And I don't think we would have gotten through this without AWS. In particular, AWS has a philosophy of customer obsession. They love their customers. And sorry if you hear my dog there. I have 2 very, very loud basset hounds. They are obnoxious and very talkative. I also have a couple cats that you might see apart. They've been walking around here. So back to this, AWS, they are completely obsessed with their customers, and they will tell you that, and they will show you that repeatedly. They partner with you and they are there along the side. They don't just sort of kind of, maybe walk next to you. They hold your hand and they help you get there. And they are an incredible partner to get through setting up your foundation and migrating your applications. So K-State ended up being very successful with the AWS process. And one of the things I think that went into that is how open-minded K-State was to the process, and how K-State really was engaged and willing and ready and fired up to learn all this knowledge and to just get going. And you can see some other the keys to success here. So I wanted to go through, kind of show you the how, because we're all IT people. Theory's good, but we like to see that. How did you actually do it? What were the tools you used? How often did you meet? What did you really actually do during the day to do this? So we collaborated. We did a lot. I know that's one of those buzzwords there, but we did. We got to know each other very well. We had each other's cell phones. We went out to dinner with each other. We went out for drinks. And we met all the time. So this is a list, screen capture from, I think, one of our very first kind of, so you can see TBD in some of these spots here. I know these names don't mean a lot to you, unless you're from K-State, and you might recognize a handful of them. And a lot of names are actually missing because our teams grew during the MRP. But what I wanted to kind of show you here, even though you don't recognize these names, is this is a very cross-functional group of people. From here on this list, we have people from engineering, we have some developers, we have library IT, we have help desk, we have security, we have database administrators, we have people like myself, project planners, and more. And we were all in this together. And that was key to K-State's success. And I will say that we we worked together before. K-State has a pretty strong IT culture and IT family, but we didn't work in this way before. And so this project really, we had to learn a lot about each other and learn how to trust each other very deeply. One of the ways we did that was a lot of real-time chatting. This is a screenshot of our Rocket Chat tool. This is, I can't remember when this is from. This is quite a while ago, actually. We're well over 1,000 JIRA tickets now. But we stood up, actually AWS came in and got access to our Rocket Chat tool and created a bunch of these discussions. And we chatted all the time. And it wasn't just our K-State people in this chat, it was AWS as well. They were part of the team. They were K-Staters in a sense. And we would really just have a wonderful time getting in here and sharing not only technical details, but just fun anecdotes and just having a really good time with this MRP as well. So besides the real-time chatting through our Rocket Chat tool, we also used Confluence. This is a screenshot of our K-State portal for this project. So one of the things AWS came in and said to us was, hey, you have to have Confluence and you have to have JIRA, because we have a lot of documentation and a lot of cards that we're just going to pre-give you out the gate, pre-stock. So we stood up our Confluence. And this has been very key to our success, because this was allowing us to build documentation as we were building that foundation and building out our account. And this allowed for everybody to jointly circle around a same tool set. This is one of the pages here. This is setting up our landing zone. And actually this was not K-State's, just a screenshot, because ours kind of got pretty messy with filling in a lot of technical details. And I don't really want to share that in a recorded session. And in this Confluence though, we were able to use a diagramming tool, draw.io. And that really helped, because it was right then and there. Anybody could get in, anybody could create those, anybody could edit it. And we still use these. And we met. Besides that real-time chatting, that collaboration on that Confluence, we met and we met and we met and we met and we met some more. This is one of our sprint calendars. We had 1 week sprints. They start on Wednesday and end on Tuesday, which I know might seem strange. This is AWS's philosophy that you start midweek sprints. You have stand up on Wednesday, Thursday. You have a break on Friday. You have a break on Monday. Then you come back and you hit it hard on Tuesday to wrap up that sprint. So you can see here, the sprint was pretty light, actually. We just had one full day and some stand-ups and a couple other meetings here, but pretty light. This is later into the MRP. But this was the middle of the MRP. You can see a couple weeks there in July where we were very, very, very busy. And all these meetings we did over Zoom. So what we tried to do, and this is actually what we tried to do, is as best we could, if possible, we tried to meet in person. But we also did over Zoom because our AWS consultants weren't on the ground at K-State the entire MRP. They were based out of wherever they were, Texas, Virginia, Colorado. So we did a lot of Zooming. And each of these Zoom sessions were recorded. And then we later linked them to that sprint calendar in Confluence. The purpose of recording was so if somebody did miss a meeting, they could go back and watch that. But also a lot of these meetings, especially in the early phases of the MRP, were very technical. So this allowed us to be able to go back and rewatch and follow along with any steps that were done within that meeting. It also allowed us to, if we didn't remember why we made a decision or what exactly was said, to inform that next step, why we did that, allowed us to really go back and revisit, because as you saw in that calendar screenshot there, we were doing a lot. We were meeting a lot. We were working on all these work streams, a lot of the work streams simultaneously, and that was heavy information overload. So as we were working in a lot of those things, that's a lot of work in progress, a lot. And we used the JIRA tool. to get that done, and not only, of course, deliver value, because that's what us project managers, of course, only care about, right? But to show that, to really see that foundation in AWS getting built. This is a screenshot of our 23rd sprint there. You can see we have a lot going on. We're very, very busy. We divided these into just 4 simple lanes here within our Kanban. And just to do, in progress, under review, and done. We got a little bit more fancy as we went along here. We started creating some components. So as we started doing some migration of applications, we could sort those through. As we started to get into more operational things that we had to do, we could do that. As we got into more cost optimization, we could sort through there. But we use this every day during stand-up, and we use this every day to guide what we had to do. We, of course, had a backlog where upcoming work was, and we go into this backlog much like any of you who are familiar with an agile project methodology. We'd go through this backlog and groom it. What needs to get pulled through to the next sprint? What needs to get put in back into the backlog? This is a very iterative process for us. Part of that iterative process and all that collaboration in the meeting recordings, everything goes into ultimately making a decision. You have to make a decision so you can move forward. What technology do you want to use? Do you want to use landing zone or control tower? What do you want to do here? And we tracked those decisions in a Kanban board. That allowed us to go back, reflect on that decision. And also, because we were using the Atlassian tool set of Confluence and Jira, we were able to, within that Jira card, link to the Confluence page where it had additional documentation on why that decision was made. And we've gone back, and this has been very helpful, because we've gone back, and as we've moved further along in migration and operations, we were able to revisit some of these decisions we made and change them. And it was really an easy process for us to see why we did something and why we were going to do something different. One of the biggest, if I have to say anything about migrating to the cloud, the most important thing that AWS did for K-State was to change our culture, was to bring us together, create more of an environment where we cared for each other, we supported each other, we trusted each other, and we all had a common goal. And one of the things, and this is, I won't say this is easy, this is really hard. One of the ways we did that was a weekly retrospective. And during this weekly retrospective, we would have an open conversation about what worked and what didn't work. The key here was to not share any blame. And this is an agile practice, so you can certainly go and do some more research on retrospectives. And I know many probably of you do this after a project completion, kind of a post-mortem. But we did this every week. And this was very helpful for us to not only kind of champion our progress, but also to identify areas for continuous improvement. And you really need to make sure that you are supporting each other during this. And it can kind of get old, so kind of think of ways to shake it up. But this is pretty crucial to creating that atmosphere where you all really want to move forward and be there for each other and get the same things accomplished and get that success. So K-State now, we're about a year after the MRP. We have our AWS account set up. We have a number of applications either running in native AWS, in our VMware and AWS environment, with managed services run through our K-State account. All of that would not have been possible without this MRP, without the change in K-State's culture, without those daily stand-ups, without that weekly retrospective, without that collaboration on the Confluence in Jira, and really without everybody having that shared common goal, and without AWS coming in and holding our hands and teaching us how to fish. So thank you, and I'll open this up to any questions.
All right. Let's see. Looks like we've got one question here. This comes from Shalyn from K-State. How has the relationship with AWS changed now that you have some AWS systems stood up? And how have the cultural changes in IT maintained over time?
Okay. So your first question was, how is our relationship with AWS since the MRP? It's continued to be very strong. So we have brought in some of our consultants actually just recently in February and March, as we wanted to go back and do a security audit. So we reached out to our engagement manager at AWS and said, hey, can we bring back in our security consultant? And no problem. We continue to work with our AWS account manager to try to bring training opportunities to the campus. So AWS continues to be a very strong partner, I think, with K-State in making sure our cloud experience is as we want it to be and bringing opportunities for us to grow. And then your second question, Shalin, is how has that culture continued? I'll tell you, at first it kept going really strong. You know, a year later, we're more into the operational phase. And so a lot of us are working still towards cloud migrations. A lot of us are off doing more operational things. And so we continue, as part of that agile process is we do continuous improvement. For example, during the MRP, we started out with stand-ups 3 days a week, and then K-State's moved that to 5 because we were going so fast and we felt that needed that 5. And actually just this week, we scaled back to 3. So we are continuously reevaluating our needs and trying to keep that culture of trust and towards a shared common goal active. But it's not easy.
All right. It looks like we don't currently have any other questions. If you'd like, we can wait for just a minute or so, see if any more come in. While we wait to see if we get any more questions, are there any final remarks that you'd like to give, Amanda?
If your university is considering a cloud-first strategy or just really wanting to know more details about our journey to the cloud or what options are out there, feel free to give me a call or email atros@ksu.edu, and I'll happy to share it and be very candid with you about what K-State did and kind of the ups and downs.
Great. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. So I guess we will probably go ahead and call it there. Amanda, thank you for your presentation, and thank you for everyone that's tuned in and shared this with us today. And we'll see you in the next session.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Cole.
Mm-hmm.